government surveillance, unlawful surveillance of two people associated with the Trump campaign, George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. We want to now zero in on the first person surveilled in all of this, and that was former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. Here with me right now is Lee Smith, a journalist and author of the newly released book, The Plot Against the President, along with Sidney Powell. She is the attorney for General Michael Flynn. She is also the author of the License to Lie book. It is now in its second edition. Thank you so much to you both for joining me today. And Sidney, let me kick it off with you. When do you believe General Flynn was first surveilled? Tell us how this all began.
I think it began, frankly, Maria, before he left the Defense Intelligence Agency working for President Obama, or if not before, shortly thereafter. They tasked Stephen Halper against him, among other things, and there were just innumerable instances where I think they actually put him in contact with people from Russia and then used those contacts to smear him.
So you believe it was entrapment?
Completely. It was worse than entrapment. It was a targeting operation and a complete setup. And then when the FBI went to interview him, it was on a complete pretext that they did so.
Yeah, I mean, we have a timeline here that shows that in August 7th, 2014, he retires from the Army after 33 years. Then in August of 15, he first meets Donald Trump. And then just a month later, you've got Stephen Halper, who you just referenced, awarded an Office of Net Assessments contract valued at $245,000. He was paid that much money to study Russia and China. Lee Smith, tell us about that.
Yeah, Maria, thanks very much for mentioning Halper, because I believe that he's actually the center of the Russiagate operation, and we first see him start to appear as he is targeting General Flynn. And now we understand, as Ms. Powell's work on behalf of General Flynn has shown, why the deep state why they needed to target General Flynn, because he understood the kinds of programs that they were using and how they were misspending their money, and Halper is representative of that.
He was paid $244,000 to write a study on China and Russia.
Right.
Is that the kind of money that one gets paid for something like that?
I mentioned this a bit in my book, and as it turns out, Mr. Halper's his research is subpar, and no, this appears to have been money that was allocated for other purposes.
Okay, hold on. We're going to take a short break. We're going to talk more about this when we come right back. On the other side of this break, Lee Smith and Sidney Powell. Stay with us. And I'm back with Lee Smith and Sidney Powell. I want to show you this graphic that we put together about Stephen Halper. He was supposed to be studying China and Russia. He never went to China. He never went to Russia. However, he kept showing up at all these conferences where Trump campaign officials were at. He, as you can see, met Michael Flynn in 2017, and he saw Svetlana Lokovo, and then he saw Carter Page and Papadopoulos. He made how much? About $1 million over a year to do these studies, Lee Smith.
Yes, and of course what we see is these are not actual studies. We hear that he was reportedly the FBI's confidential human source sent against the Trump campaign. What he really is, his history has a history as a political operative. This was a political operation designed to assist the Clinton campaign. We talk a lot about the FBI and DOJ, and we're right to focus on the very bad, likely criminal things they did, but it's important to remember that the primary beneficiary was the Clinton campaign.
Sidney Powell, what can you say about that? This guy was made more than $1 million over 1 year's period to write these studies, and yet he was running into all the Trump campaign people.
Oh, yes. He was clearly a CIA, FBI operative run through the excuse me, the Office of Net Assessment in the Pentagon by Colonel James Baker, who was his handler there, and paid the exorbitant amount of money to do what he was doing essentially under the table. And then the FBI used that as part of the pretext to interview him and set up the entire false narrative, framed General Flynn, altered the 302s after February 10th to make statements sound wrong when they were not. General Flynn didn't even say those things.
And this is why you're going to be doing another.
The notes of the agents.
You're making another filing public tomorrow, correct? What do you want all of these charges dropped against General Michael Flynn?
Yes, right now, technically, we're asking for the additional exculpatory evidence the government's been hiding for several years. There's a lot more evidence out there that would explain that the general was absolutely truthful with the agents to the best of his recollection at the time, and the FBI knew it. And other evidence that they knew he was serving the country, not any foreign interest.
Well, we're waiting on the John Durham investigation and the IG report. Will there be accountability? Very quickly.
I certainly believe there will be, and we see why they had to take out General Flynn, because he knew what these guys were up to, what they were hiding in these programs.
All right, we will leave it there. Lee Smith, Sidney Powell, great to have you both. Thanks so much. I'll see you tomorrow on Fox Business.